Hello, everyone. Welcome to Europeans at Heart, a podcast created and hosted by young European ambassadors in the European Union. I'm Mafalda, a YEA based in Portugal, and today I'm here with Nadia to talk about the Eastern Partnership, what it is, what its main goals and cooperation areas are, and some more interesting information about our six EU partners. We hope you stay with us because there is a lot to learn today.
Thank you, Mafalda. Let's get started. Tell me more about what the Eastern Partnership is and what its aims are.
Well, the Eastern Partnership is a joint initiative which aims to deepen and strengthen relations between the European Union, its member states, and its six eastern neighbors Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine. But Nadia, can you tell us when it all started?
Yes, the Eastern Partnership was launched at the Prague Summit in 2009, and since then it has evolved with a review of the European Neighbourhood Policy in 2015. This means that the substance of the policy has been broadened, deepened, and been adapted to changing realities. I mean, you need to change in order to fit best with the new world relations, right?
Yes, indeed. And to achieve this, the Eastern Partnership combines bilateral and multilateral tracks in different cooperation areas that I believe Nadia will tell us more about during today's episode. But first, let's debunk some myths about the Eastern Partnership. Nadia, what are the first myths that people think of when hearing about the Eastern Partnership?
Well, one of the first myths people think of when hearing about the Eastern Partnership is that they think that participating in the project leads to EU membership automatically. But this is wrong. The Eastern Partnership is an initiative and not an EU accession process. Its goal is to build a common area of shared democracy, prosperity, and cooperation among different areas that we will explain today.
Yes, that's right. And also, some people believe that since the EAP is targeted at Eastern European and Caucasus countries, it was also created to provoke Russia. But in reality, the Eastern Partnership is not against any country. It is a constructive platform for countries in the region to build closer relations with the EU.
Yes, and being so close to the EU means encouraging some principles and values. But it would be misleading to believe that the Eastern Partnership would be promoting regime change or even what certain people would call destabilization. The EU only wants to bring some positive change in the EAP countries by encouraging democratic principles through corporations aligned with each country aspirations. However, one must remember that it does not impose any specific action on the partner countries.
Yes, and even if the EU funds such a program, it does not mean in any case that EU money is being lost due to the corruption existing in certain countries. As a matter of fact, EU funds are subject to monitoring and reporting procedures, and actually, fighting corruption is one of the top priorities of the EU in partner countries.
Yeah, that's true. But I believe that at this point, our listeners think that the project is pretty nice and all, but I think they might wonder how EU citizens actually benefit from the Eastern Partnership, if they do benefit at all. But allow me to answer your concerns about this. So, stable and prosperous countries in our neighborhood are fundamental for the EU's own stability, security, and prosperity. And also, the Eastern Partnership brings new markets and consumers on both sides. So, it's win-win in any case.
Yeah, exactly. So, in the end, what you must remember about the Eastern Partnership is that it benefits both partners, the EU and the AP countries. The money invested is not lost as it funds many projects for the target countries to further develop and achieve better governance, for instance. It is a relatively new project, but it has already accomplished many things. But I believe it would be important to further develop the main cooperation areas of the Eastern Partnership. So I would ask Nadia to share that info with our listeners, and then we will tell you some interesting facts about each partner country, as well as some stories about how the EU is supporting them in achieving the goals we mentioned. What do you say, Nadia?
Yes, of course, totally. In fact, there are four main categories under which various topics go. For example, under the category called cross cutting areas, you may find actions related to civil society, such as gender issues, media freedom, and independence. A development scheme also exists in order to help with broad environmental questions and climate change, or even connecting partners for better energy efficiency and developing economic and market opportunities. Thirdly, the partnership and the diplomatic relations enhance the mobility of the EAP countries to travel to Europe and vice versa. This means that people with very different backgrounds are able to meet and discuss their experience, among other topics. All in all, the ultimate aim is to strengthen the institutions, relations, and the good governance of all parties.
Amazing. Thank you for clarifying this. Some terms are quite broad, and it is important for our listeners to know the concrete actions behind each cooperation area. So, thank you for that, Nadia. And I think it is now time to get to know more about each EAP country. So, I will share some interesting facts about them, and Nadia will tell us some stories about how the EU provides support to its citizens within the cooperation areas you just mentioned. So, the first country we will present to you is Armenia. Let's start with an easy question. Are you a fan of wine? In that case, you should know that Armenia is home to the world's oldest winery. Also, did you know it was the first country to adopt Christianity? Yeah, it was. And it also has one of Europe's oldest capitals, Yerevan, which is known as the Pink City due to the color of its buildings made with a rosy volcanic rock. If you think you already know all the interesting facts about Armenia, we should also tell you that chess is part of the national school curriculum, which explains, of course, why Armenians are so good at it.
Now, let's talk about how Armenia enhances the life of its citizens by addressing gender issues and respecting human rights. The EU also has a role to play, as since 2017, after the signature of the Istanbul Convention, Armenia has worked hand in hand with the EU to strengthen the access to justice for women victims of violence as part of the conditions to fully ratify the treaty by 2022. You can read the story of Judge Lisa Grigarian on the EU Neighbours East website. Witnessing a high number of cases of domestic violence in her career, she has decided to partner with this project to take further action in her country.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, violence against women is not an issue specific to Armenia. It is actually a problem of all EU and EAP countries that need urgent solutions. But turning now onto another Caucasus country, let's talk a bit about Azerbaijan. Do you wonder if Azerbaijan is in Europe or in Asia? Well, geographically speaking, Europe ends in the Caucasus Mountains, so there is still a part of the north of Azerbaijan that is considered to be Europe, while the rest of the country is in Asia. In Azerbaijan, and I didn't know this one, which is referred to the land of fire, tea is drunk with jam. It is also the birthplace of crude oil, and guess what? There is even a crude oil spa. But what about EU Azerbaijan relations? Can you tell us more about it, Nadia?
Yes, of course. But first, I have to say that I did not know that crude oil spa was a thing. Never mind. Continuing on with Azerbaijan, I have a story to tell concerning education and culture. Indeed, in 2019, the EU, with the help of the UN, have decided to tackle the issue of gender inequality as part of the Sustainable Development Goals, UN SDGs. This means creating new possibilities for women to be included in several areas, such as sports and politics. And to illustrate this point, you can read the story of Dilara Aliyeva on our website. She used to be a football coach for the women's team, and she is now invested in politics and promoting education and culture on the local level.
Wow, that's an interesting and inspiring story indeed. And actually, speaking about sports, did you know that Belarusians also love sports? If they are not practicing it, they are probably watching it. So, if you are from Belarus and you are listening this episode, let us know if this is actually true. But besides their healthy and active lifestyle, they also have a pancake day. No, actually, not a pancake day, but a pancake week to celebrate Maslenica week. Also, did you know that 40% of Belarus is covered by forests, which is why it is considered the lungs of Europe? Wonderful, right? And another wonderful characteristic of Belarus is its people. If you ever travel to Belarus or you know someone who did, you know how hospitable Belarusians are. So, can you give us an example of what the EU is doing for this wonderful country?
Yes, and in fact, I have a very recent story. I'm sure you can relate. In 2020, with the COVID-19 pandemic, the EU and WHO have delivered personal protective equipment to healthcare workers in the region of Minsk, the capital, as part of the EU's two-year system program for the Belarusian healthcare system. In July 2020, over 450,000 units of personal protective equipment were shipped, including 300,000 medical masks and over 130,000 respirators, 6,000 goggles, 6,000 face shields, and over 10,000 medical gowns. The program's budget is over 3 million euros and helped reduce the number of patients in hospital by one quarter, and also try to counter the effects of the difficult start President Lukashenko took when dealing with the pandemic at first. But before getting too carried away with numbers, let's return for the last time in the Caucasus region to hear about Georgia. Over to you, Mafalda.
Yeah, well, if Armenia was the first country to adopt Christianity, Georgia is the country where the first Europeans come from, according to an archaeological expedition that found the oldest human skulls in the Caucasus, showing that a man from Africa traveled to Europe through Georgia. I believe we also already talked about wine in this episode, but well, we have to go there again since Georgia is considered to be the cradle of winemaking. Besides other unique facts, such as having its own song in the space, can you believe that? The country also has a unique language and alphabet which is not spoken in any other country. So, after all these interesting facts, I'm sure that there is more to know about EU Georgia relations. So, what can you tell us about that, Nadia?
Yes, absolutely. And this time, I want to stress environmental issues. Being one of the organizers and speakers at our dialogue initiative with Georgia, I was in charge with the environmental aspect of it. And therefore, I learned a lot about the issues Georgia faces in terms of environment. Here is one of them. In 2019, the sea pollution and water supplies issue have been solved with the help of the EU in the region of Chavki and Batumi. But what happened is that several problems of sanitation existed, as the pipes dated from the Soviet era and were thus easily blocked, which led to illegal drainage and sewage water into the Black Sea. This unfortunately resulted in pollution of the maritime and highly touristic areas. But hopefully, the European Union addressed this issue.
Thank you, Nadia, for bringing all those interesting stories to our episode today. So, ending our journey in the Caucasus and moving back to mainland Europe, it is time to introduce Moldova. Unfortunately, or not, I guess we won't be able to skip talking about wine again. Every time I ask my friends if they know where the world's biggest underground wine cellar is, they can never guess. But from now on, you will never forget that it is in Moldova. Yes, and they even celebrate a national wine day. And besides having one of the biggest caves on the planet, they also have the largest village in Europe. Most Moldovans speak two or three languages, and if you ever visit a Moldovan friend, remember to take off your shoes before entering their house. So, if wine plays an important part of the Moldovan culture, what about in other areas of the country and especially the economy? How does the EU help with it? Over to you, Nadia.
Yes, well, the EU has also a role to play in helping the economy of EAP countries for them to enable them to grow. Not long ago, an initiative program called PAR 1+1 began and is aimed at encouraging Moldovans working abroad to invest back home and help businesses stay afloat on the market. Because of better living standards and wages abroad, many Moldovans have decided to leave their country to work elsewhere in the EU, which left a deficit of young people in the country. This is one of the issues that the project aims to tackle, to diminish migration by encouraging people to stay in the country and therefore giving them the necessary funding to build their own project and help the country develop in the end. According to the EU ambassador to the Republic of Moldova, Pirca Tapiola, he said that since 2010, the EU has invested over 6 million euros in this program and thus financed over 700 investment projects in Moldova and resulted with the creation of 1,200 good jobs.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you, Nadia. And so, last but not least, let's talk about Ukraine. There is so much to say about this huge country. Did you know that it was home to one of the world's first constitutions? Yes, that's true. It was written by a Ukrainian Cossack in 1710. Ukraine has seven World Heritage Sites, and its city, Lviv, claims to be the home of the first ever gas lamp. But if you want to go deeper into this conversation, you should know that Kiev has the world's deepest metro station. And speaking about tunnels, the Tunnel of Love that you have probably already seen on an Instagram picture is a beautiful railroad surrounded by trees. But speaking about nature, I think Nadia has a story to tell us related to environmental issues in Ukraine, right?
Yes, indeed. And I will address the case of the bilateral cooperation between two EAP countries towards the environment. Ukraine has definitely several stories concerning EU cooperation in the country. But building onto the EU Commission recommendations, several issues such as the European Green Deal have been addressed in cooperation with other EAP countries. In such a manner, knowing that the environment is also a hot topic in Georgia, the two countries have been working hand in hand for an entire environmental campaign, reaching more than 120 young people in both countries. As a result, a platform for a regional level cooperation has been launched, bringing the two countries closer, enhancing the dialogue between youth and local activities, and decided on a budget to, in the end, publish a co written policy research paper.
These are very interesting stories indeed. And can you tell us more about other general EU projects targeting the AP countries?
Yes, of course. In fact, many other initiatives have also been launched with the entire partnership and include a certain number of projects, such as EU versus disinformation, talking about freedom of speech and fake news and the ways to deal with it. The project has run over the year 2019 and 2020 to raise awareness on the issue before the US elections. And also, I think it is impossible to conclude this section without mentioning the European School in Georgia, which is open to all students from countries of the Eastern Partnership. There, the aim is to highlight European civil values and foster cooperation, multicultural understanding, and tolerance among young people in both the EU and Eastern Partnership countries. As it is an international school, students prepare the IB, or the International Baccalaureate, with a special curriculum focusing on Europe. For about 30 students a year, it is the promise of an international future and an opportunity to continue your studies abroad later on.
Yeah, these are definitely very interesting projects. We are almost at the end of our episode, but I would like to ask Nadia where we can find all of this information.
Yes, all information is available on the EU Neighbours East website, but you can also check the description of this episode to find all the sources to our sayings.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we believe that now you know a bit more about the Eastern Partnership and its countries. We hope you enjoyed it and that it was a starting point for you to learn more about the EAP. So, coming to a close of our episode, a final question remains, of course. What makes us feel Europeans at heart? What do you think, Nadia?
Well, for me, being Europeans at heart is understanding that we, as a continent, have shared values and ideals. We might not have the exact same history, culture, or religion, but understanding and respecting one another is what makes us stronger together. We act as a community of countries, each other with their own specificities, but still defending a common European identity. Borders do not matter. Only you create your own limits. And this is why being European also means being open minded and building bridges between our people. Perhaps it is an idealistic way to look at it, but I find it to be a very poetic way to think of our community and nations. But what do you think,
Yeah,
Matilda?
yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I consider myself European at heart because I believe we have something in common: history, culture, values, an identity, the hope for a better future. And besides what might make us different from each other, besides what could tear us apart, we are stronger together if united in diversity. Because no matter the borders we have to cross, we have something in common at last. We are Europeans at heart.
Well said, Mafalda. Well, thank you for listening to our podcast. Please subscribe and share it with your European friends. I'm sure that you will continue on learning more about the EAP countries with us on this journey. So join us for a new episode coming up soon. And don't forget to follow us on our Instagram and Facebook pages, EU Neighbours East, or on the Twitter called EU Neighbours. Bye!
Thank you. Bye.